This is the chuck, the whole shoulder. Okay, prime rib came off of here, short ribs underneath there, plate. Okay, so this is what's called the chuck roll. Underneath it, alright, I'll flip it over, is going to be the chuck clod, or the shoulder. And you can see here, this is the knuckle of the leg that came out. Okay, that's the shoulder. It's got the teres major and the flat iron steaks that I want to try to get off there. And this was actually the top of the brisket that came off this on the inside here. So that's the first task, is to get this section underneath here off of here. So now I've just flipped this over. Alright, here's that the knuckle of the humerus, and that's what I'm going to remove first. It's the humerus. Okay, this is that shoulder I was talking about. The chuck roll is underneath here, going over here. Maybe you can see it better this way. Yeah, there it is. Okay, that's where the brisket came off. Okay, but this, I want to take this section off of here, separate this section. Top of the humerus was not fun. Okay, but I managed to get it out. So this is that humerus, and this is where we stand. Now we can see these muscle groups. Let me get rid of this. Look at the size of that bone. That's huge. That supported a 1,300 pound beef. So now we should be able to see these muscle groups going back here is what I'm after. Teres major and the flat irons. This is the top of the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade comes out like this, and I got to remove that, but I got to cut on a certain side, on one side of it, so as to protect these muscle groups, these tender muscle groups that I want to take advantage of. So I've cut back along with scapula here. Okay, it's a lot of work. Now I'm told in University of Kentucky Extension Office that there's a natural seam down here. What I did was I came down here and found it, and you can see in here it starts going back underneath here. I guess that must be this natural seam, because I was cutting down straight through the scapula, around the scapula here. I'm getting nothing but meat, and I don't want to be cutting into different cuts of meat. But he said cut straight down there, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow this seam back. Yeah, I'm going to follow this seam back, see how far back that goes. And so this is the shoulder clod that will come off, and then we can break this down into the into those teres major and the flat irons, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Here's the shoulder. This here is the flat iron, and this is the teres major. So I'm going to start working around the teres. It's a muscle on itself. The humerus came up in here, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. Let's just flip this over, take a look at it. Okay. Yeah, so this is where I cut away from the scapula. So the scapula's up here, humerus came down here. Okay. Alright, so this sucker's heavy. Okay, so the scapula sat right in here. Okay, so this this flat iron was actually on the scapula, and the teres major was right next to it. Here's the teres major. I think they may call it a chuck tender or something, or shoulder tender. That's the teres major muscle. It has a big silver skin coming up into a tendon here. You have to clean off. But that's it. Now on to the flat irons. Here are the finished flat irons. Woohoo! So the rest is just roast, cube, and yeah, I got my cube pile up here and my grind pile here for ground. Okay, so what's left? 2 3-pound chuck roasts, and I'll cube up that stuff. And that's it for the shoulder. Here's the shoulder blade. Cut this out. This is where the flat irons were. The teres major was right here. Okay. There's the end of that socket where the humerus came out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove this. This is what it's called the mock tender. It's actually not tender at all, but they call it the mock tender. Once the mock tender is done, I'm going to take out this shoulder blade, and then we'll be able to remove the ribs and get to this chuck roll down here. Now separated the shoulder blade. I said I was going to cut this guy out first, but I couldn't find a seam on him. So I'm going to have to play with that later. So what I decided to do is I decided to take the shoulder blade out first. Then I can work on this guy. I can start seeing where the seam is. Let me get this correct. So I can start seeing where the seam is on this to get that muscle out. Here's the mock tender. I don't know why they call it tender. Oh yeah, it's supposed to look like a tenderloin. However, it is not tender. It's a muscle of locomotion, they say. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over here, clean that up. I want to look at what we got left here. Okay, we have, okay, so this is the roll that's left. Okay, what we got here is what they call a two-piece chuck. Okay, yesterday I took off these bones. The spine came down here, and the prime rib comes off of here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut straight up across there, and that will be called the chuck roll. So this is a two-piece cut, the packaging terms, and this, once this is cut, is chuck roll. All that will go to cubes and ground beef, and then we can roast. Set this up as roasts, clean it up and set it up as roasts. Here's the this chuck remainder. Now this is where the this is where the rib eyes come off, right? And here it's referred to as chuck. However, if I cut steaks here, these would be actually considered Delmonico steaks, these coming in here. Remember, it's the same muscle as the rib muscle. But so these would be Delmonicos, and then we can separate this whole thing, alright, and the back end of here can be tied up into essentially a roast, and same muscle group, so it should be as tender as the ribeye.